Today's show is brought to you by adamandeve.com. Go to adamandeve.com right now and you'll get 50% off just about any item. All you have to do is enter the code word GLORY, Glory, at checkout.
Be advised that this show is not for children, the faint of heart, or the easily offended. The explicit tag is there for a reason.
Recording live from Glory Hole Studios, wherever the fuck we find ourselves. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. This is episode 535 of Cognitive Dissonance. And
We're
Cecil,
like three away. We're like three away from 538, Tom.
Yeah.
We're three away. 538. That's gonna be the.
Would it have been amazingly auspicious if 538 was our election show?
That would be amazing. We should just stop recording until
Can
then.
we go on pause? Can we just go on pause for a little while? Just so we just.
We should do 537.1.
Yeah, we got it. Let's cheat it.
537.2.
Let's cheat it. We got to cheat it, buddy.
We'll just cheat until we get there. Oh, Tom.
Oh, man.
Tragic news today. I don't know if you saw. Tragic news. The president announced that he was going to suspend elections, which is what he can't do. So he mentioned it today. So tragic news in everybody's.
If he doesn't suspend elections, then voting by mail will cause massive electoral fraud. So something which we've been able to do since like the Civil War, and something which Trump has voted himself by mail.
Along with many people in his cabinet. Sure.
Right. I have voted by mail. John Oliver did a really good piece about the vote by mail thing. And it's like one of those crimes where if you just pause and think about why there would not be massive amounts of electoral fraud and voting fraud, you personally gain nothing. But the risks are enormous. If I go rob a liquor store, let's say I want to rob a liquor store.
Sure.
The gain that I get out of that is somebody hands me money.
You get something.
Tom, have that money, and I put it in my pocket. And then I go, ta-la-la, and I go outside and I get arrested. But for a moment, I had some money. And that's why I robbed the liquor store. So the risk-reward thing, at least, but the reward is maybe I will incrementally affect the election.
Sure.
I am definitely willing to risk jail time to incrementally affect the election. There was 125 million people who voted in the last election. So Cecil, I just thought it'd be fun. Let's say you wanted to swing the election.
Yeah.
You wanted to significantly impact the election through your voter fraud. It's the only thing that would make that risk-reward balance make sense.
You'd have to collect a lot of ballots and send a lot of ballots.
All right. Well,
let's
just think 125 million, and let's say I need to only I can swing this fucking thing if I can just swing 1/10% of it. I have to go out and steal 125,000 ballots.
Okay.
Yeah. And then mail all those in.
Admittedly, if you were to do it in a state, some states were swung by, 10,000, 15,000 votes, and some places even in Florida in the Bush v. Gore, it was a couple hundred, right?
Yeah.
So a couple hundred worth. But that would mean you would need to have some of that foresight to know exactly where they're going to be neck and neck. And even in places where we have statistical analysis and people who know what they're talking about, even those people don't get it right 100% of the time. So you may waste a shit ton of time trying to find ballots in fucking Michigan that you never really needed.
Yeah. So Cecil, guess how much time you would have to waste just for funsies. If you wanted 10,000, I have a system, and it'll only take me 3 minutes per ballot, and I'm going to do 10,000 ballots. This is the fun thing about large numbers, right? Yeah. So, that's 500 hours of work. 500 hours of work. that you would have to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
it's
is
almost
that?
like it's not even a real thing, Cecil.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's nothing to worry about.
Is it 5 weeks worth of time or something like that? Is that what that is? 500 hours?
Well, let's say
that's a little less. It's less
if they're
right?
work weeks and you put in 10 hours of overtime, it'll be 10 weeks. Right?
Work weeks, though.
It'd be 10 weeks of working 50-hour weeks of doing nothing all day but stealing ballots at 3 minutes per ballot.
3 minutes per ballot. Right,
which I don't know who's got the 3 minutes per ballot machine that they have. Like, so, it's the fun thing about large numbers is they don't, as soon as you do the math, you're like, that's not a true thing.
Even at 10 grand, it's a lot of time.
It's a massive amount of time.
But it's an asinine thing anyway, because we in Illinois, I guess they're trying to shift to vote by mail if you want. And I got applications, I think, for it in the mail. I have to double check and look. But I don't want to go vote this time if I can avoid it. I did it in the primary. Yeah, and it was shitty. I had to stand outside in the cold because nobody wanted to stand next to each other. It was in the first days of the fucking coronavirus. Nobody's wearing a mask back then. So back then it was fucking weird, man. Because it was like literally in the first couple days. It was when the first 2 weeks of the coronavirus, and at least in Illinois, it was insane. And all the polling stations were closed down because people didn't want to fucking be there to go run the goddamn thing.
How backwards is that too? Like, I'm sorry, but the thing to do would be to have more places to do it so less people go to each place. Instead, we make decisions that create more density.
Absolutely. It's a silly way to fix the problem. It's a dumb way to fix the problem. And then but it's a necessity though, Tom, because people weren't signing up for volunteer slots. So they're stuck in this weird position where they're creating larger density. Nobody wants to be there. The people don't want to actually go and sign up as to be election judges anymore. And it's so easy to fix. It's so fucking easy to fix. And you know who gets a chance to vote? And this is why they don't want to do it. Yeah. The people who get the chance to vote when it's fucking vote by mail are people who can't leave their job during the day because they're busy all day and they can't ever get to the ballot. It's the elderly, people who can't leave their houses easily. It's people who have to take care of their children, who can't leave their children or take their children with them to the ballot station. Right. People without vehicles, people who are poor, who are so deep in poverty, they don't have transportation. Yeah. So who are those people who I mentioned that are affected? Oh, it's the poor and the disaffected in this country. Yeah, you don't want to give those people votes because they'll vote your fucking fat cat ass out of there. That's why.
Every time.
That's
every
why.
Time. There is a reason that the GOP does not want to turn out. They've shown again and again. They've taken it to court. They're not even trying to hide it. They've come out and said it out loud. So this isn't like Tom's conspiracy hour. The right does not want to enfranchise the whole country. We could, if we really wanted to say we want to have a system where everybody in the country decides who its leaders are, we would just say, okay, well, let's get rid of Columbus Day because that guy was a monster. And instead, we'll have Voting Tuesday. And it would be a national holiday. And we would say, okay, you have to get paid for it, right? Yep. And so people would be able to take the day off and they would get paid for that day off. And maybe you'd stagger it over 2 days so that, not everything in the whole world closed, right? So you could have some toggle back. You would have or I don't know, Cecil, vote by fucking mail.
We're talking about all kinds of different documents travel through the mail as it is. So the idea that this document in particular is different than all the rest is silly. Right. And like you said, the amount of work that would have to go in to handle this and do this seems like just it's such an amazing amount of work to do the littlest push. But beyond that fact, Trump can't actually change the day.
No, he does not have that power.
And even if he did, right? Even if he did, it doesn't matter because the way the Constitution is written, Pelosi would become the fucking president on January 20th.
Right.
So
he has no idea that that's the case. That he still would have to vacate.
Yeah, because he doesn't know how things work. He doesn't know how any of he didn't know how any of it worked before he took the job. We hired a guy who had no idea how any of it worked. He had no idea. He's a guy who you hire for in Tesla. He walks in, he's like, so you make electric cars here, huh? That's how fucking stupid a person we hired.
Yeah. Well, it is amazing how little he must have paid attention in civics class. Yeah, you find that out all the time. He's just like, I'm the president. I have absolute control. And it's like, no. But I will say, he's pushing those boundaries because the checks and balances refuse to check him.
Exactly.
Right?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I saw people upset about that today.
And I will say, like, you know, the checks and balances in this country, one of the massive problems we have is with a two-party system, and we've got this bullshit filibuster nonsense. You can have a small majority in the Senate, for example. I don't know. You could have a small majority in the Senate that basically cockblocks any attempts to restrain executive power. And that is antithetical to the system of checks and balances that we have. Because if the president is supported by the Senate and the Senate is supported by the president, you effectively have one monolith rather than two independent branches of government. And that's what we've been building for years and years. We've been building these monoliths instead of independent branches that seek to check each other. And since the Senate won't hold the president accountable, the president can, with great impunity, just act unilaterally.
Yeah, do whatever he wants. Yeah. And he has shown time and time and time again. Today, he tweeted out a fucking promotion for a pizza place in New York on his Twitter feed.
What?
They're just saying you should go eat pizza at this place in New York. It's a great place. Literally on his Twitter feed.
You literally cannot do that, and it does not matter that he did that.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all.
I mean, it's
and
like
that's
the
just
Goya
one
beans
thing.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
just one thing.
Did you see his tweet about the suburbs?
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh, hold on, Cecil. I got to read this to you, buddy. So here's the tweet, Cecil. I am happy to inform all of the people living their suburban lifestyle dream that you will no longer be bothered or financially hurt by having low-income housing built in your neighborhood. Wow. And what he's referring to specifically is he rescinded AFFH, which is the it's an extension of the Fair Housing Act. I forgot exactly what it stands for. I always forget what it stands for. But the goal of it was basically to create incentives, financial incentives, to allow people to have affordable housing. I think it's like the Affordable Housing Fairness Shenanigans Act or something like that. But the idea was to create affordable housing that was spread out in geographically diverse areas and in economically diverse areas so that you didn't create these ghettos, right? One of the problems that we had in the 80s and 90s was that we took all the poor people and we stuck them physically in one place. And we created this ghettoization of American cities. And we saw very quickly that leads to multi-generational cycles of poverty because all these people become, nested into one place, and those places have bad schools and low job opportunities, and shitty access to public transportation and like food bad deserts. Access to food. They're just a nightmare. And so people that are born into that nightmare have no opportunity to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and thunk around in the American dream. So it was understood that we had to do something to break that apart. AFFH was part of that process. It was an extension of the Fair Housing Act. So the idea was to create incentives so that you could get affordable housing in communities that were like safer with better schools and better job opportunities, and to move people around so that you don't have these cycles of poverty. He fucking rescinded it. And then when he rescinded it, he tweets this thing out saying, hey, white people, this is exactly what it reads. Hey, white people, don't worry. We'll keep the blacks in their place.
Yep.
That's the dog whistle. It's not even a dog whistle.
It's not even a dog whistle.
I'm happy to inform all the people living their suburban lifestyle dream, which is capitalized, like that's a brand name, that you will no longer be bothered or financially hurt by having low-income housing built in your neighborhood. And then he just fucks over the poor because he knows that the poor is not his base.
Yep.
He's
trying to stop him from voting.
Yeah.
So,
It's fucking outrageous.
Yeah, well, it's less than 100 days now until until we see what happens. But he's trailing, but a shot is still a shot, right? Just like we learned with Hillary, trailing doesn't mean anything. So I mean, it's a 1 in 6 chance is still a 1 in 6 chance. So it's certainly not a 1 in 35 chance.
Yeah,
and certainly not a 1 in 100 chance. It's a lot better odds than that. So I encourage everybody to get registered, get voting, and make sure that they are ready to go. Not only vote in this election, but also vote just in general. Yeah. even if you're going to, and I know there's a bunch of people who are going to protest, not protest vote or whatever, or not vote. I'm not going to fucking argue with you. I'm not going to beg you. You should know what's a moral choice. It's up to you. And there's just tons of money pouring in for certain people, very famous, infamous, if you will, senators against them in their campaign. So Lindsey Graham's going to have an uphill race. Mitch McConnell's got a lot of money coming into his opponent, and Susan Collins, a lot of money coming into their opponent. So there's a lot of money that's flowing in to push up some Democrats. And right now they're saying if things, go the way they go, it may be that it might be a blue Senate. And that would be amazing. Huge.
That would be amazing.
Huge. If it's blue, you get some serious stuff done. So that would be pretty great. You're taking over. I mean, seriously though, you leave, Trump drives away in a beautiful car. He's driving down the road, and then 4 years later, he returns it, tosses the keys to Biden, and all the wheels fall out. And it's like that old Victory Auto record.
Right, thing. Yeah, the door falls off.
Door falls off. That's what happens when they returns it, because he's fucked this nation in a huge way. And in one way, you can already see, Tom, is the GDP.
What are you talking about, Cecil? The GDP is... the GDP charts... if they weren't so absolutely terrifyingly bleak, they would be comical. Because it's like the charts of the GDP, it's like, oh, here's some peaks and some valleys and some dips and some drops. And then there's the current drop, which extends off the page and spills onto your desk. And you have to wipe it up with fucking paper towels.
It's the old Bugs Bunny thing where it just pours. The ink is pouring down on the desk. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh my God.
Our economy took a wrong turn at Albuquerque, Tom.
I took that chart earlier today. It totally did, man. I took that chart earlier today and I sort of just did the enlarge shrink thing. And what I wanted to see is how much do you have to shrink it? Shrink the peaks to make that valley appear sort of normalized? And you have to make it so small you can't even see it. You can't even see anything meaningful on it anymore.
I have to say though, this, when you look at how bad the economy's doing, you can certainly blame some of that. Actually, you can blame all of it on the coronavirus, but it's Trump's giant mismanagement of the coronavirus that caused the problem.
Thank you.
It's not that it's the coronavirus's fault. Sure, it's the coronavirus's fault, but it's also the fact that he's mismanagement so bad. Do you remember the first day we heard about it and he was trying to hot potato that shit to Pence? Do you remember that?
Yeah, but Cecil, give me an honest answer now. Who's in charge of it federally now?
No, nobody is.
Because he appointed Pence to be in charge, and Pence was like, "Mother, I have a job," and with no qualifications whatsoever.
Sure,
by the way, to lead that.
Yeah, no, he's had a bad track record with viruses, that's for sure. Yeah.
And then he continues to undermine his own expert, like Fauci.
Absolutely, constantly.
He just he has a hate on for that guy because he's jealous of him. He's
so
weirdly crazy jealous of him.
God, he's so fucking ugly, petty, gross, grade school jealous of him. Yeah. It's just pathetic. It's just pathetic.
Yep.
God, could you seriously think about a person in your life that's a grown-ass person being that pathetic? Wouldn't you just cut that toxicity out of your life if someone was that fucking petty that fucking pathetic?
And if you felt that way, if I felt that jealous, I have felt jealous, I'm not going to pretend I haven't. I have been, I have seen it, and I've been oh man, I'm kind of fucking jealous of that. But then, there's that moment where you're this is a natural jealousy. This is aspirational jealousy where it's I'd like to have that. What do I need to do to work for it? To achieve that thing that this person, there's this aspirational jealousy. And then there's sort of FOMO jealousy. And then there's just this sort of desperate, childish, insecure jealousy where you just have to destroy the other person. There's never an attempt to be oh man, I guess I should step up. It's not that. It's I absolutely must crush this person because I will then be the only other choice in the room. Yeah. It's like wanting the pretty girl at the party and being all right, here's what I'll do. I'll kill every other person at this party, and then she'll have to choose me.
When I open fire, she will fall on her knees and beg me to marry her.
It's that fucking cracked out. Like, it's like, if I'm your only choice, I'm still your choice.
Yep,
You're like, what the fuck?
Oh my gosh. This week, one of the things that happened was he had said that he was going to throw out the first pitch at the Yankees game because Fauci got asked to throw out the first pitch in a game and nobody asked Trump, and he just announced that he was going to do it. And then he said, no, I can't. I'm sorry.
He canceled it.
Everybody at the Yankees is looking at each other saying, did you call him? I didn't call. Did you call? Nobody knew it. Yeah. He literally just announced it by fiat. It's amazing.
I love that he invited himself to the Yankees to throw the first pitch and then canceled on them. He's like, I can't make it. And they're just like, okay, cool.
Has Trump ever invited himself, I don't know, like has he invited himself to give a eulogy to somebody? I wonder. He'd go to John Lewis and say, hey, John Lewis's family, and say, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be the one giving. I'm gonna give the eulogy. I'm gonna give the second eulogy after Obama.
And then just doesn't do it.
He just walks in and just, hey guys, I'm here.
I'm here to do the eulogy. It's gonna be a great eulogy, bigly eulogy. You're gonna love it. I can't do it. I got other things to do. Fuck your eulogy. Your eulogy is small. It's sad. I'm not doing your eulogy. There's like this crazy, desperate insecurity to the whole thing. That's just, it's absolutely wild to watch.
How is that attractive to anyone who sees it? Because it's obvious, right? It's obvious to anyone who sees it. So I can't imagine somebody looking at that person and thinking, gosh, that's my guy.
Well, they don't believe
He's so insecure.
They just believe. The thing is, like, they think that didn't happen. Like like the people that are rabidly pro-Trump, they think that story where like he's going to throw the first pitch and then he canceled. They think that like he really was invited. And that he canceled because he was too busy working on the coronavirus, like he said. They just believe what he says. Even when the things he says don't match the other things he says, then what they believe after that is that he's working some crazy angle, right? Oh, now he's just screwing with the media just to screw with the media. And it's like, well, you know, I mean, the media does report stuff to the people. Like, doesn't he have a responsibility to be consistent and not to just play games with like our lives?
Well, the way they say it, though, is they'll say he's throwing a curveball to somebody. He's throwing a curveball through the media to us. But you're the recipient of that curveball. Like,
well,
you know,
also just
the media is just
manipulating me.
Media is just the fucking mouthpiece. You're the one who's getting the curveball. Yeah. Like, you're the eventual person he beans.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't. Why you should be just as upset as I am.
I don't understand at all. And like, we got to talk about like the John Lewis funeral.
Yeah.
So how classy is that to just not attend that?
You know, he didn't go to McCain's either.
Yeah.
And that guy was in his own party.
And like, it's not necessary that he goes, but like, it would be classy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it would be a classy thing to do. Be like, this guy was an important figure in American life. It would actually, because he was a civil rights leader, it would be a bridge building piece at a time when, I don't know, the country is suffering through like some of the worst like racial tension in its history.
Yeah.
But it's just that he does not give a shit about that. He's not going to go to John Lewis's funeral because it doesn't play the right message to the base, right?
Will he go to Herman Cain's funeral, you think?
I don't know. I bet not. I bet he's one of those guys that secretly just doesn't go to many funerals.
Oh. Now openly doesn't go to many funerals. Right? It's not secretly anymore. Big switch. Turning Point USA and Herman Cain really came out pro-mask this week, which I thought was great. It's a big shift for Republicans, Tom. It's a huge shift for them to push and come out pro-mask like that, I think.
Oh, God.
It's a bold stance, I think. Bold stance.
It's a bold laydown is what it is.
I want to say, too, I don't care that Herman Cain died because I didn't care when Herman Cain lived, by the way. I just want to point that out because nobody cared because he was the $5 foot-long SimCity tax plan guy. So nobody cared about him. But I just want to point out one thing that I will say. You know, I while I don't care that he died, I will say that there is some definite justice behind it because he has a Twitter account that has 550,000 people that follow it, and he was anti-mask. At least his fucking Twitter person was anti-mask on the tweet feed.
Yep.
So, when people say, "Oh, you shouldn't go so low and make fun," I'm not making fun of the guy dying, but the fucking guy was tweeting a couple of weeks ago, at least his manager or whatever was tweeting a couple of weeks ago about how masks were bullshit. And there was a deleted tweet from him that specifically said something like, "I'm glad that today's Trump rally is mask free. Enough is enough," or something like that.
I saw the same thing.
And then and it was deleted from his feed, but it happened.
Yep.
And they took pictures of him while he's there, a big smile on his face. And he contracted COVID a couple of days after, got hospitalized a couple days after that. So, you could probably put 2 and 2 together. I don't know if there was a contact tracer deep in the case here, but I think we could all suspect that maybe he either brought it with him there or he got it while he was there. And so, if somebody's going to be upset that we made a joke at his expense or whatever, that guy's hurting people. That guy's out there spreading bullshit. He's hurting human beings. Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy is right, man. And the same thing is true like the Turning Point guy that died, who was virulently publicly in writing going out of his way to cast doubt on like what the health experts are saying to do to stop this fucking pandemic. The thing is like we're doing all the wrong things socially, like with regard to this pandemic. And there is a whole like power structure of people. Like Herman Cain's not unpopular. He's not unpowerful because of that popularity. Anyone with 550,000 Twitter followers has some pull with people, right?
Sure.
And he might not have individual pull, but what is true is that when you take a guy like him and a guy like the state senator in Tennessee who just got it recently, and the Talking Point guy, or the Turning Point guy, I'm sorry, and like you take all these messages and you add them up and you aggregate them, if those are the messages that you see repeated time and time and time again, it's not the individual effect of one person. It's the accumulated effect of the same message over and over.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
an aggregate.
These motherfuckers, like to your point, like these motherfuckers are part of the reason that huge numbers of people just don't think this is a real thing. And that's why the economy is down 33%, right? That's why the GDP is down 32.9%.
It's all connected.
If you're out of work, this is why you're out of work. You're out of work because people aren't supporting masks. There's a one-to-one correlation here. Right? This is not tough shit to figure out. Like if you're struggling, if you like lost your like, a loved one to this, if you're wondering if like your schools are going to be allowed to reopen and if our kids are going to get an education this year, or if they're going to slip further and further behind, like all of that, the reason we have this fucking problem this many months into the game when so many other countries have this much better under control, it's because these assholes aggregate together to spread a false narrative that counters the advice of the health experts. The only people we should be allowed to listen to, the only people who should be allowed to weigh in on this are people that are the fucking health experts. There's a reason we hired those motherfuckers. So like to filter their message through the fucking mouths of these numbskulls, of these idiots, of these people who have like, they have a fucking agenda, and that agenda is not to keep you safe. It's wrong. That's the reason you're unemployed if you're unemployed. That right there. Fuckers like Herman Cain. Fuck that guy.
If I get it, it's because someone else made a mistake, right? Because I'm really careful. I sanitize my hands all the time when I'm out. I wash my hands whenever I can when I'm out. I wear a mask whenever I can around anyone else. I am very cautious and very conscious of how I bring things into my house and make sure that I am staying as germ-free as possible, right? I'm doing my best. So if I get it, it's somebody else really fucked up, right? They fucking snotted on something and they touched something, or they coughed in my face, or they did, you know what I mean? If I get it, it's because someone made a mistake. The thing is when Herman Cain got this, it's because of his own stupidity. That's why he got it. He got it because he was stubborn, because he was too into his own his head so far up his own ass that he didn't fucking realize that it could kill you, right? And this is a cancer survivor, right? He's fucking immunocompromised, and he's going to a Trump rally with a bunch of other people.
It's amazing to me. Like, I have no sympathy for any of these motherfuckers. The thing that's amazing to me is then, like, when people very rightfully point out, like, the not just the Schadenfreude, but honestly, the kind of karmic justice that is, and not actual karma, but the karmic social justice.
Yeah, right.
Like there's this tweets like these tweets like, oh, this is not a time to politicize. Motherfuckers have been politicizing the deaths of 150,000 people. Every time you stand up and you say like, let's not wear a mask, let's not do this, you are politicizing a health issue for your fucking benefit. So I have no patience for that. Like, oh, now that somebody I love died, now now don't politicize it. But when it's your fucking loved one who's dead or out of work or kids can't go back to school, like, oh, I'll politicize that all fucking day. Go to hell with that nonsense.
It's inherently political. The death is inherently political.
Yep.
So fuck you.
Yep.
And I'm so tired of the moralizing that goes on because the reason why they do it is because they're playing the victim card right now. They don't want to hear that they were fucking wrong. They just want to play the fucking victim card right now.
Yeah, right.
And what you need to hear is that you were wrong and everybody around you was wrong and that if you wear a fucking mask, you are going to save somebody, period. The end of the story.
Yep.
And use this death not as a fucking springboard for you to fucking hide your fucking head in the sand more deeply. Instead, use it as a way to say, you know what? Those people were wrong. The end.
Yeah.
We should all just fucking
those people
pitch
were wrong,
in
and now I'm
do
going to
this.
use the platform that I have to correct the record, to drive home the point. Because now the thing is, Cecil, like they have an opportunity now to say I was wrong, and here are the consequences of being wrong. Don't let it happen to you. There's an opportunity now to correct the record in a meaningful way, and their refusal to do that in order to like avoid the shame of having been so wrong about something so important is just going to cause more people to die.
Absolutely.
It's just going to compound the tragedy out of their own fucking fear, out of their own I don't want to admit I'm wrong. I'm a fucking giant pussy and I'm not able to admit I'm wrong. Just be wrong. I'm wrong about all kinds of shit.
And the weird thing is the crazy thing is like, I don't know if you saw this week when they had Barr up there in front of everybody. Did you see this?
I saw some of it. Yeah.
So they had Barr up there, and I really feel like the Democrats fucking squandered that in a huge way because they didn't try to catch him on any kind of real major problems, which is what they should have been doing, is try to fucking stick it to him, make him lie under oath. Instead, they just stood up there and grandstanded, and then they were pointing out the right's hypocrisy, and you just want to slap the left and just say, fucking, the right doesn't care if they're hypocrites.
No.
They've never cared. So you're using this big giant platform to point out hypocrisy, and nobody on the other side gives a fuck. Yeah, use it to try to fucking get this guy to tie himself into knots and maybe fucking, I don't know, lie under oath, and then maybe you have something. But the bullshit about, well, you're a hypocrite. Who fucking nobody cares. Everybody knows he's a hypocrite.
Being hypocritical, if like that's only a problem if you have a problem with hypocrisy. It's like telling somebody in open marriage, like, hey man, your wife is cheating on you. It's like, yeah, we're all okay with that over here. Yeah. Hey man, your side is hypocritical. Like, yeah, that's a strategy. Yeah. Like, we're okay with it. Like, we don't, like, it literally does not have any moral compunction.
Yeah, it's less baggage. Right. I move faster into the world without my sense of hypocrisy. I move through the world like a cat. Are you kidding me? It makes them sleek. It makes them aerodynamic. Are you fucking A, man? The one thing I will say though, and this will end our talk about coronavirus. I will say I will forgive 2020 all its transgressions if Louis Gohmert takes a turn for the worse.
Oh, I know. Because Gohmert's got the fucking COVIDs, and I'm just like,
that's a good one. That's a bad person. Yeah. That's a genuinely bad person.
Yeah.
Like I know Herman Cain is yes and no, kind of bad, but also kind of forgettable. Louis Gohmert's a bad dude.
Yeah.
And Louis Gohmert getting COVID, especially after opening his fucking mouth in the hearings and then not wearing a mask the whole time. So I have no idea who else in that room got sick, but fucking A, if Louis Gohmert gets it, and Louis Gohmert has it, but if Louis Gohmert gets worse, I am ready to drunk text 2020. I am ready to late night you up 2020.
Eggplant 2020.
Eggplant, sploosh. You got
it. Hey, has this ever happened to you?
Honey, where did you get these sex toys from?
Local sex shop?
I didn't think Reeboks made sex toys. I don't know how I'm gonna peg with this. Are you sure this is legit?
Well, I went to a place called Dick's.
Honey, that's a sporting goods store.
Have you or a loved one accidentally gone to a sporting goods store when you should have been shopping at adamandeve.com?
Who are you?
Yes, with adamandeve.com, you can explore thousands of products that'll make you glad you're staying home. And now Adam and Eve is offering an exclusive discount to our listeners.
That's me.
Choose almost any one item at 50% off. When you do, you'll also get free shipping delivered discreetly right to your door.
Wow.
Just remember to use offer code GLORY. That's GLORY at checkout.
Now this is what I'm talking about. Give me that ass.
There is no what if. I am pregnant. And it is Jesus.
So stories from the progressive secular humanist blogs over at Pathos. Bishop, daughters should be uneducated so they're not smarter than husbands. All right, so what I want to do is I want to read out loud what this guy said. This is a sermon from evangelical bishop Edir Macedo, right?
Oh.
He's a bishop of the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God. And so here's what he said. He's talking about his daughters. When they went out, I said they would just go to high school and they wouldn't go to college. My wife supported me, but the relatives found it absurd. Why don't you go to college? Because if you graduate from a particular profession, you will serve yourself. You will work for yourself. But I don't want that. You came to serve God. Because if she was a doctor and had a high degree of knowledge and found a boy who had a low degree of knowledge, he would not be the head, she would be the head. And if it were the head, it would not serve God's will. Quick aside. Two quick things. One, he is absolutely obsessed with head. He is absolutely
100%.
obsessed with head. Like
100%.
I'm telling you this, doctors get head too.
Yeah.
Doctors get head, doctors give head. Like you can have any job
Let
and
me
it's
tell
not
you,
off the table.
You know who could suck the fucking chrome off a trailer hitch was Dr. Ruth. I'm telling you right now, Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Gosh, she could suck a golf ball through 50 foot of garden hose. I'm telling you, man. Unreal.
Also, I will point this out. Like, there are very few lady doctors out there who are like, I'm going to find a man with no knowledge. Like, that's just not generally how shit works. Generally speaking, people like are attracted to and attract other people who are like not generally speaking, educationally similar.
Well, and mostly you find rats in the same cage, right? You find someone who's around you in some particular way. That's why there's so many people who are in PhD programs who marry someone else in their PhD program or something,
that's
right?
Who you're around
They're in
all
the
day.
same. That's this. You're around that person all the time, and then you eventually become friends, and maybe you eventually become married. And the same thing happens with doctors and nurses. They're all in the same place all the time.
Yeah.
So the nurse marries the doctor, or the doctor marries the nurse, or whatever. However,
Doctors
it works.
marry each other.
Yeah, doctors marry each other. Nurses marry each other. Nurse marries somebody else who's involved, the physical therapist. Those people see each other all the time. And the same thing happens in when my mom and dad met, the reason why my mom and dad met, my mom was working as the like assistant dispatcher at a trucking company, and my dad was a truck driver.
Right.
That's how they met. Okay,
Yeah.
so the same thing happens
It's
with
almost
a lot
like you
of
meet
people.
the people you're around.
It turns out, yeah.
But like,
I know that changes now a little bit with the internet, but it's not. It was for a long time. That's how it was.
Yeah, I also don't think like there's a lot of people who are like going through med school and are like, yeah, I would date a custodian. Not that there's anything wrong with a custodian. It's just that like generally speaking, people are looking for somebody that they can engage with on an intellectual level. Like that's very frequently something people look for.
Yeah.
Like his concern is like, well, what if it's not going to happen? It's just not going to happen. I want my daughters to marry a male, a man who has to be head. They have to be head because if they are not head, their marriage is doomed to failure. I will say, I agree. If you don't go down, that thing's not going to last. That's just temporary at best.
We get these stories all the time, and a religious misogynist.
Huh.
I, at this point, I literally cannot even reach up to clutch my pearls anymore.
How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil. Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain?
So this story comes from Al Jazeera. Man shot dead for blasphemy in Pakistan courtroom. So they didn't even wait for court to happen. Like,
what happened?
This is some guy who, like, he claimed he was a prophet, and so they accused him of blasphemy because, like, I guess you can only do that once and then your time is up. Like, I'm not sure.
Didn't they have this guy in custody for a long time?
Yeah, they had this guy in custody, and they finally, like, brought him into court. And some dude just shot this fucking guy 6 times.
He's been in police custody since 2018.
Yeah. That's like the American system of justice where it takes.
It is. If you're poor, absolutely it is. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, like, I was doing some reading about that the other day because, like, I do watch some crime shows and and it is not at all infrequent for there to be a 2 or 3 year gap from the time that you're arrested to the time that you're tried. And I was like, wait a minute. Don't we have a constitutional right to a speedy trial? Like, it's in there. You have it for exactly this reason, so that people don't get, like, thrown in jail for indeterminate lengths of time awaiting trial. And I did some reading, and you know what I discovered, Cecil? You don't really have much of a right to a speedy trial.
You don't?
You effectively do not have that right. Yeah. It is so difficult to make a case because the courts are basically like, look, we're just bogged down. It takes this long for the state to put their case together. It is what it is.
Holy shit.
And basically we have all agreed to shrug and say, it is what it is.
And so, like, if you're accused of murder, they don't let you out, right? You're just stuck there.
A lot of people spend literally years in a county jail before they're even convicted of anything, if they're ever convicted. What
happens if you're not convicted?
Then you go free.
But do they give you any compensation for the time that you spent?
No, they ruin your life. You get nothing, Cecil. You get nothing because you were not, because that's how the system works. Fuck you is how it works.
Jesus.
You do not have, and you don't. Like, I did a bunch of reading. It's like, you effectively do not have a right to anything approaching a speedy trial.
I actually, one of the things I've been reading this book, The New Jim Crow, which is a very interesting book if people haven't read it. I was turned on to it by someone. I was trying to find books on Black history, and actually I'm reading another one now called The Assassination of Fred Hampton, which happened here in Chicago. The FBI assassinated a Black leader here in Chicago. But the book New Jim Crow is crazy in the sense that they talk about how many people don't get through trial because they plea bargain right away. So it never actually gets to that point because they plea bargain. And then the amount of problems that felons have in this country after they become felons, you know, I know that some people will say, oh yeah, well, they get to vote. Yeah, well, sometimes they do get to vote. They get to vote after they pay all their fines. Well, these people are poor; they can't pay their fines, so essentially fucked. Even if you're in a position where you can pay the fucking fine, you can't actually fucking pay the fine because you can't afford it, and then you can't get a job. It's just like the worst. It's literally terrible. The worst.
Yeah,
and it's essentially and then they police way more heavily in Black areas than they do in white areas. Even though Black people and white people have the same amount of chance of committing crimes, they still police more heavily there, and then they commit more felonies. And so they essentially create a permanent felon underclass that will never be able to get all the benefits of real society. They've essentially created a brand new slavery.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, the amount of numbers that when you hear the numbers that happen in this, it's just absolutely disgusting. But you know, the speedy trial thing gets taken away because a lot of these people plea, even if they're not guilty, they'll plea.
Well, there was a story we didn't cover from last week that was like one of these protesters got like roughed up and they were contesting the reason that they were arrested at the protest. And the prosecution said, no shit, like, we don't have to produce the body cam footage. So there was body cam footage of the arrest and like what led up to the arrest. And so the defense was like, well,
they said we would have to do it.
Yeah. And they were just like, well, look, this is supposed to go fast.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be this other kind of case that goes fast. So we are just not going to produce the evidence that is available for the viewing of the court. Because we don't have to do it because it's too much work. It would take too long. The case doesn't merit it. These things plea out. Why isn't he just pleading out? And that was essentially what the prosecution said.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it resolved. I don't think that they got access. Yeah. Like, I don't think the defense got access to the evidence.
Feels like the legal system is a polite fiction. Like, it genuinely feels like a polite fiction.
How much worse is it than you thought? Like, on a scale from 1 to holy shit.
It's so much worse, man. I thought for my whole life, there's this thing we have called the legal system, and there's just so many layers of shit in this country where you think that you're protected for certain things, and you're not, man. You're just not. You're just not. And the way the system works, it's just made to fuck you. It's just made to fuck you.
Yep.
I want to talk real quickly about this guy though, because this guy he's in the court. And they shot him dead while he's in the court. Yeah. And I can't help but think that this is the blasphemy guy, rolling back all the way to the blasphemy story we actually started covering. But you go back to the blasphemy story. This guy is in court. I just like to think that the defense stood up, or actually the prosecution stood up and said, "Sir, we have one question." Blah, blah, blah. The prosecution rests, Your Honor.
Your witness.
Yeah.
It's like a little more liquidy than human jizz. Okay, so you want me to make eye contact with the horse. Oh my God. Oh, feels on my finger. It got on my lip.
Gas leak from horse semen containers sparks hazmat alert at Havant delivery center. Fire crews have been called to a Havant parcel delivery center after a 30-liter vessel containing horse semen began to leak coolant gas. In other news, guys, there's 30 liters of horse semen. I have so many questions.
I do too. I have a lot of questions. Is it blended or is it a single malt? That's my question. That's my question. I need to know.
30 liters. That is a workout. 30 liters. Are you serious? They're like, how? Okay, all right.
30 liters, 1 teaspoon at a time, baby.
So, like, does the farmer or whatever just have, like, a really weird Thursday? Is it, like, or does it, like, keep for a while? Is he just like, oh, my God, I got to jerk off so many horses today?
I got to milk my stallion. I'll be back in a second. I got to go outside and milk him. And they
I hate jerk off Thursday.
They gotta put the fucking jerk off thing on the horse, and it's like a milking machine. It sucks it out, puts it on ice.
Oh, hump day is the worst.
Oh God.
The horse is bored, you're bored, everyone's just like, oh God,
they just go to where they have to get it to, and they're like ladling it into where it needs to go.
It's like, Jimmy, bring over that big vat of horse semen.
Actually, it's a little soupy. Bring the immersion blender. I want to spin it up a little. I just want to get it a little thicker so I can use the spatula rather than pour it.
Throw some cornstarch in there. That'll.
You put it in an icing bag and you're piping out a rose with the semen.
I know that like horse semen is like harvested and like transferred and sold.
Sure.
But like, again, it's a volume issue that I am struggling with right now. I am just, wow. It's just one horse who's prodigious as fuck, though. He's just like,
that's what I like to think. I like to think there's one horse that just shoots the other horse out on like a slip and slide, just shoots it across the room when it's finished.
Liters?
Yeah.
Think of a 2-liter bottle. Now think of 15 2-liter bottles.
You could fill a waterbed with that much semen. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I fill this waterbed myself. It is slightly warm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a little warm for sure.
A fire engine from Cosham Fire Station and 2 from Waterloo Fire Station were called to the DPD.
DP?
I know.
Wait a second.
Parcel Delivery Center.
God, I'm 15 again. I love this so much.
I've been 15 my whole life.
This is the best. This
Dunsbury
is my
Park.
favorite.
The call was made after staff at the depot found, quote, a white smoky mist coming from a package.
Was it sublimating?
The semen was just trying to be seductive. It was like setting a mood. Hey, it's what we do.
What's that smell? Is that semen incense you have burning?
Oh God, that's so good.
How disgusting is that?
That's awful.
There's trees in downtown Chicago that smell like jizz.
I've heard of that.
There's a specific tree. I don't know what it is, but whenever I walk by it, I'm always like, is somebody fucking spunk up in this motherfucker? It just smells like somebody fucking came in a bucket. It's just like somebody had a fucking spill of 30 liters of horse semen as you walk by. I don't know what kind of tree it is, but man, it smells like fucking jizz. Also, too, one of the things that happened in this story is it just feels like one of those things, like you probably transport a lot of things throughout the year as a transportation company, but the one time the cops get called, it's because you were transporting semen, right? It's like, it would be as if you went to the drugstore and they make that breathy announcement over the intercom, I need a price check on slim fit condoms. God damn it. I like them. I like using the finger cots. What do you want from me? It's the only thing that fits in.
It's like a raincoat.
It's very nice. These are the big ones. I feel like I'm flopping all over the place.
I am flopping.
God damn, it's like putting a fucking galosh on my cock.
I don't want to use the big one. Then I got to have a rubber band at the bottom and everything.
Exactly, yeah.
So I got to tie another condom around the first one.
It's a series of condoms.
I'm wearing like 14 of these things.
I shared him with 3 other horses. There were times where I could accept it. There were times when I resented it because I wanted him there for me.
Overall, you stand a pretty woman in a pretty mare, I'll take the mare.
So in related, maybe?
It's in related news, absolutely.
I don't know. But it's just that kind of week. I guess last week was bird week.
Last week was emu week.
Yeah.
This week,
so this is horse week.
There is an emu story in our...
There is. They're popping up all over the place.
So
the story's from KGAB. It's a Wyoming thing. I don't know. It's the only thing in Wyoming. Wyoming authorities investigate alleged sexual abuse of horses. So that's pretty much what that sounds like. They arrested a dude who was fucking horses. Is pretty much what it sounds like.
Well,
he breaking into places.
He sexually assaulted one horse, but then they said he digitally penetrated a fall. And I was thinking, what did he put his cell phone up there? What are we talking about here? 0011 0001.
Look, I know people are feeling a little lonely. Because of the coronavirus,
brings
right?
The worst part of it, yeah.
And I know, like, you got to be socially distant, from other people. But like, I'm just saying, like, maybe get like a horse magazine right now. Just like this is not your time. Like, what the fuck? Like, maybe rent Black Stallion alone. Like, whatever you got to do.
There's also no way you're satisfying a horse that's used to 30 liters of cum. That's all I'm saying. There's no way. No way. I also want to say, too, in the article, it said the founders of Wyoming did not have, there's never been anything on the books about bestiality. It's never come up. And so they said it's actually a difficult situation there because they don't have any real laws against it because they never brought it up. And I'm thinking, come on, people in Wyoming never thought about bestiality.
Yeah, no,
not a single time in the past. Come on.
Yeah, maybe that story's in reverse. So like, that's not against the law.
Can we just skip over that? Because my brother-in-law, I don't want to put him away.
Okay, all those in favor of making fucking animals illegal. No takers? Everyone's abstaining. All abstained.
Everyone in favor of making fucking animals illegal, go to Colorado.
I think I'm having an overdose, and so is my wife.
Okay, you and your wife?
Yes.
Overdose of what?
Marijuana. But I don't know if it had something in it.
Do you guys have fever or anything?
No, I think we're dying.
Okay, how much did you guys have?
I don't know. We made brownies, and I think we're dead. I really do.
So this story comes from WWMT, which, by the way, is real confusing because the W's and the M's right next to each other looks like a mess. Kalamazoo County Sheriff directs detectives. Well, that's a mouthful. Kalamazoo County Sheriff directs detectives to investigate message calling him fat. Okay, so I just got to read this thing. A West Michigan sheriff sent detectives to investigate a Facebook message he received calling him fat. Here's what the message says. You're a fat ass who needs to go on a diet. Stop us from living. Come get me if you want, tubby ass fat bitch. Is what I love it. Somebody messaged the sheriff.
What was he playing Xbox Live?
I know.
What was happening?
Was
there a 9-year-old somewhere? A 9-year-old somewhere furiously typing away on their keyboard?
Like if somebody like crushes you in Call of Duty and he's the cops, you can't swat him. What are you supposed to do?
You swat the cops. God, I wish that worked.
So like, God, wouldn't that be hilarious? So like, so what this guy did is he sent his detectives to go find the guy and go talk to the guy. And he claimed to like send him a threatening message. There's nothing threatening here.
Police resources. Yeah, that's really.
Yeah. Come and get me if you want me, tubby ass fat bitch. What? Like I still have to come to you in order to have a physical confrontation? That's not threatening. You're just mad that you're fat. Incidentally, he's fat.
I love this story so much. And he's fucking sending the police helicopter out to go find a guy who said he was a duty head. It's my favorite shit. I love the idea.
You can't make fun of me anymore. I'm a police officer now. I'm a police officer. You got to stop bullying me.
You know what's so funny is we were just talking about that one case where they won't release the data because they don't want to. But in this case, you can fucking reappropriate police fucking resources whenever somebody hurts your fifis. It's so amazing. Oh, it's so funny. You hear they found that there was a person this week. I found a story where one of the people who lit fire to a police car in Seattle, they found them through Etsy.
Really?
They had a unique shirt on, and they did some back searches and stuff like that, and they found that an Etsy store was like the only place I think that carried it. And they went through the people's who bought it, and they found the person who bought it. They found the person through backwards. It's hilarious when they want to find somebody to burn a cop car, they certainly can. But tell you what, they certainly do move pretty slowly when it comes to cops killing unarmed citizens. They move a little slower.
I was going to say the same thing. Like all of a sudden, like we're fucking all CSI Miami on this shit when it's like, when the cops have some fucking skin in the game. But like when somebody reports a rape, they're like, what were you wearing? You know?
Exactly.
What the fuck?
And it turns out in this case, it mattered what she was wearing. So we want to thank our patrons. Of course, we want to thank all our patrons. We want to thank our newest patrons for the last several weeks. Ian, Traveling Texan, Thomas, Taylor, Joel, Justin, Triss, Michael, Joel, Grant, Big Booty Goth Queer, Dang, Furfur, Bika, Randy, Seeley, Darius the Soso, TreeHuggerPestControl.com, Commander William T. Riker's Luscious Beard, Loya, Thomas the Political Martian, Lime Green Morpheus, Kelly, Zachary, Brianna, Tommen, What Have I Gotten Myself Into, Douglas, Something Stupid, Zada, I'll Take a Pardon also, Mr. President, Abigail, Simon, and Nick. Thanks so much for your generous donations. We really do truly appreciate it. We want to thank everybody who's been a patron and everybody who is becoming patrons. The studio isn't free and it isn't cheap. Nope. So we want to thank you for keeping this show going. This show is listener funded, right? I know when we hear on PBS all the time, they'll say, we're listener funded. We are literally listener funded.
Absolutely.
We don't have a John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation to give us a funding for our shows. So the show is made by you, and that's what's great about this show is that we can do what we want because we know that you love it. So we thank you very much for being patrons, and we thank you for chipping in and making sure this show is possible. We do this, guys. We do this for you guys, and we're so happy that you will allow us to do it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it means the world to us to have patrons to be able to continue to support us, especially through the pandemic, which has just been an absolutely wild ride. So we certainly would not have been able to make all the changes we made to keep the show going without the patrons. It cost a lot to basically create 2 different glory holes.
Yeah.
That's more than just a hole saw.
Yeah, no, I mean, you need a lot more. There's a pillow there that you need on either side. Yeah.
Gotta like get some fucking rubber around the gasket area.
Yeah, and now there's hand sanitizer that you
that's
need.
just polite. Yeah. I mean, let's not.
I mean, we already had the lube, but the hand sanitizer's a new touch. Yeah. So we got a message from Elvis, and he said that we talked last week. Tom had mentioned about Facebook saying, look, you can work from home, but wherever you fucking move, we're going to charge you that. We're going to basically cut your pay based on your cost of living. And he said, Federal Civil Service has been doing that for about 30 years. He said, in fact, it's a fact of life of the industry. And he said, for federal employees, it's called locality pay. For the military, it's called variable housing allowance.
Yeah, and I guess I would just note that like the difference here is that like Facebook's already operating with a certain expense line on their personnel budget, right? Like so they're already spending X dollars, and they've already negotiated that like employee A is worth Y dollars, and they produce a certain product and it's worth it, and that's their line. And now like it's not like the military is like, okay, if we station you in San Diego, we have to pay you more because housing is more expensive in San Diego. But that's because they chose to station you there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it has to do with who's giving you your marching orders.
And who's making these choices. But Facebook already is spending a certain amount for its people. And they've already said these people are worth a certain amount. That's what we negotiated. This is just capricious.
Yeah.
Because this is saying if you make a choice that betters your life, not if I make a choice to station you in San Diego and that's expensive, but instead it's like if you make a choice to go live, in North Carolina, I just want to save some money too.
Yeah.
Fuck that. It's just awful.
We got an interesting image.
So funny.
But I'm just gonna post. Jack sent it in.
Jack, I love this image.
We got a message from Kelly, and Kelly said, I listened to your latest podcast. You're talking about superstitions. I don't actually believe in ghosts, but in nursing homes after dark, they are creepy places. I will definitely have you seeing things and hearing shit. And I will say this, you're kind of primed for all that stuff through our media and through the stories that we hear and all that stuff. And so the human brain makes you freak out when you're in those situations. I mean, there used to be this MTV show where you had to go spend the night in a scary place.
Oh yeah, I remember that show.
And they had made people go spend the night in some creepy place, and they had no lights. It was literally pitch dark. I could be in here, and if it's pitch dark, it's a little unnerving, right?
Right.
Even if I know my surroundings, the only place that I feel really, really, really comfortable is at home in the pitch dark. But many other places, I don't feel comfortable in the pitch dark. Yeah. I feel a little on edge. And so, you just have, your body just does this thing where it's, where when you're not in a natural habitat, it doesn't feel good. And your body is also primed to get that sensory information from other places and bring it along with it. So while you might be a skeptic and an atheist, you might have watched ghost stories on TV and it gets your brain thinking.
And your point, Cecil, I think is exactly right too, about your body will tell your mind you're scared. It's a feedback loop. It's like, if you turn off all the lights and you're just sitting someplace, or you're in a space that's late at night, it's mostly deserted. Your body is going to be primed for that response for a reason, because that response keeps people safer. That is a response that is evolutionarily advantageous to kick your senses up and make you more keyed up to danger. So your body's just teaching your mind, this is scary, avoid that shit, because maybe there's a lion.
Absolutely.
It's not a bad thing. I don't think you're a bad skeptic for it.
Got a message from John, and he said, I was listening to you guys last week, and you were talking about your disbelief on decorum on the Senate floor. And he said, I want to bring your attention back to 2004 when Dick Cheney said he could not be prouder of that time that he told Pat Leahy to go fuck himself on the Senate floor.
Yeah.
That was Dick Cheney's a fucking monster, though.
He is. And he did say, but when he was asked about that, he did say, it's sort of the best thing I ever did. And I have to say, but Dick Cheney, that's a low fucking bar.
Yeah. I mean, killing 100,000 Iraqis is probably second on the list.
Yeah,
for
right.
him.
Yeah. Shooting your buddy in the face and making him apologize. Like when Dick Cheney is like your bar for like ethical behavior, you gotta fucking calibrate.
Got a message from Jay, and he said, have you ever noticed a lot of people who hate the proverbial burger flipper are also the ones that bemoan the loss of manufacturing jobs? When we talk about labor, just labor in general, there's a lot of people that are unskilled labor that hate other unskilled labor.
Yeah, it's weird.
And then there's also the people who want to. You've heard the argument about you want to pay a burger flipper $15 an hour, but an EMT makes $15 an hour. And the problem is that the people on the top want us to fight each other.
Yes,
they
exactly.
want us to fight. They want us to fight each other over who's getting. You can't pay that person that much. I'm making that much. Instead of turning to the person above them and saying, yeah, they should be making that much, and I should be making more. Right. That's not how it works for them.
Thank you. Like I've heard that so many times, and it's like the counter is always like, well, then we criminally underpay EMT workers, which is, by the way, fucking true. We criminally underpay certain people. Like being judgy about a hard day's work is a shitty thing to do. Like, I don't care what some of the, like we were talking before last episode, man, I remember like working at Burger King and like after a lunch shift, like, and I was a fucking robust, energetic, like 17-year-old man. And like, I would come home and be like, that was a lot of work. I worked super, like I'd be sweating, like pouring sweat, moving fast, lifting heavy fucking boxes of shit, running as fast like as you could over greasy floors to like run to get another box of this thing and that thing. And you're like hustling. And you would do it for hours on end. I mean, I fucking busted my ass at that job. I used to work at an industrial kitchen, industrial cafeteria. And the lunch service there was fucking disaster every day. We were understaffed because they don't need you there all day. The people that they need there all day, they have the perfect amount of staff for. And everybody's all hands on deck for lunch. And so sometimes I was the guy who would, be the one who would handle certain parts of refilling certain things on the buffet and whatnot. But there were other days when I had to run that grill, and it was just a line of people out the door every day, just constantly for 3 straight hours. You're just making people's food straight away. Just you're basically a line cook. Yep. They come up, I want a double burger. Okay, boom, boom, boom. You're just constantly cooking the whole time. And then you're the only one there. So you're constantly figuring out what they want, what do they want on it, what do they, you know what I mean? It's it's so much work. People throw it out there as if it's nothing. It's a lot of work, and we expect a lot out of those people, and we pay them very, very little. What was the worst of your like early job experience? What was the worst job you ever had?
UPS. I quit. I walked off UPS.
After how long?
I've never quit a job. I was sick. I had started working there, and I was there for maybe 3 weeks. And the job was hard. They yelled at you all the time to hurry up. You constantly, I would be unloading a truck, and they would constantly walk up and say, you got to move faster. And I'm literally moving as fast as I can. I'm pouring sweat. I'm going as fast as I possibly can. And they're yelling at you to go faster constantly. And then I remember I was on the truck and sick, and I was moving a little slow that day. And the guy yelled at me too many times. I said, fuck you. And I walked right off the job. And the guy said, you can't leave. And I said, fuck you. I can't fucking leave.
I can do anything I want.
Watch me leave.
Right.
He's like, you can't quit. I said, fucking watch me, dude. What are you kidding me? The fuck out of here. I walked the fuck off that job. What about you?
It's a tie. Boston Market was horrible. I worked at a Boston Market for a few months, and like that job was like there's only one person in the back making all the food. So one guy's job was to come in the morning early and prep all the chickens and do the rotisserie thing.
Yeah.
And all the rest of that food was made by one person. So the whole back kitchen is staffed by one person. And you're just all day just like schlepping stuff in and out of like ovens and these big steamers and like making ginormous vats of like gravy and shit. And it was just like, it was not only difficult work, but like this is going to sound, but it was very, very lonely work because you're hustling all day. And I think a lot of those jobs are like that too. You're hustling all day and you're like alone. Your job isolates you from other people. You don't have any meaningful interaction with anybody else. Like
Yeah.
Those jobs are like, they're difficult, like on the soul too. Like they're difficult on the body, but like, they're just difficult, like for people. I'm a people person. It was not my job at all. It was ridiculous. The other job I had, the very first job I ever had was at a car wash. My dad got me a job at a car wash, and the job was to like, you know, like dry the cars with towels and like detail cars and, you know, do that kind of shit. And it was an absolute criminal enterprise. The car wash was a front. There was a guy at the car wash who sold drugs out of the car wash. So like, you're supposed to get out of your car, but if you stayed in your car and like flashed your lights or honked your horn, I don't remember what it was, this dude like would come up and like your car would come out of the wash and it's still surrounded, and like he'd sell drugs out of the car wash. And like a huge number of the people working at the car wash were like ex-cons and like people like right out of like, you know, troublesome. And then there's me, and I'm like 15. And like people would fight for money in the detail bay. So they'd push you in the detail bay and like you'd get in a fight and people would be betting on who was going to win at the detail bay. It was fucking insane. And then the manager and the assistant manager eventually robbed the place, stole all the money and all the pagers.
At the car wash.
Yeah. They stole all the money and all the pagers and shit and like tried to drive to Mexico. And so I just like rode my bike because I didn't even have a fucking car. I like rode my bike like 4 fucking miles to get to the stupid car wash. And I'm like dressed in my idiot clothes.
It was closed?
And it was just, there was a sign on the door. It was just like, fuck off, you're closed now. And I was like, oh, thank God. I hated that job, but my dad got me that job and I was so afraid to tell him how bad it was. So I'd come home and have all these bruises and shit. I'd be like, one of the fucking Whopper things hit me instead of the car. It was like some dude in the detail bay. It's like, we're fighting for money now. I'm like, I don't want that at all. Like, what the fuck? It was the worst. But even that is still a tie for fucking Boston Market.
Got a message from Aaron, and he sent an image that is very appropriate. So we're going to post it on this week's show notes. Got a message from Mary, another job. She was saying that she took a second job at McDonald's. She was already working 40 hours a week. She wanted to work 20 hours a week. She came in after the second week. They literally scheduled her for 38.5 hours. Worked that shift and never came back. You know, that's what happens with the second job. That's what that UPS was for me. It was just a second job. I was just like, fuck you. Yep. You know, I probably would not have walked off that job sick if that was my only job. But it just happened to be a second job, so I took it.
I had a job like that at Borders Books that I had a second job, but I was so tired. I had like a newborn and a full-time job that was more than 40 hours. And like, I just needed the money. And so like, I would go to Borders from like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I was supposed to like alphabetize the books. And I would sit on one of those little stools and I would just fall asleep because I was so tired.
Gosh.
I would just, and the manager would come by and I'd be like, fucking dreaming of sleep, just sitting.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I wasn't like dozing. I would sit and I'd start alphabetizing, but it's so fucking boring. And you're like, A, B, C, and I would just fucking fall, just dead ass asleep, sitting, leaned up against the shelves, like just dead.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did they do? Did they yell at you?
No, she was okay. She'd be like, hey, you're supposed to be, she was kind of, you'd be like, you got to be working here. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got you.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just resting my brain because I was fucking asleep, bitch. And I just quit after a while because I just was like, I'm not doing good here.
I'm not built for that shit.
Yeah, I'm doing a bad job.
Tom, we got a message from, this is from Regina.
Yeah, observation of why we're in this dumpster fire. The problem we have now is a scientifically illiterate public watching science happen in real time and expecting the right answers right away. And that's not how science works. You test hypotheses with tightly controlled methodology and discard the ones that the resulting data does not support. That takes time and that takes errors. Instead, we have a nation drunk on religion, which claims to have all the right answers from the beginning and doubles down when their answers are refuted by actual data. So they expect science to pick one answer and stick with it because that's what religion does. They want consistency because that provides certainty and reassurance even when it's wrong. And they care more about the comfort of answers that never change rather than if the answers are correct. I think that absolutely nails a certain segment of society. Absolutely nails it.
Absolutely well does. Stated. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's one of those things that we are dealing with right now. And I said this before, and I think it really matters. Stupid doesn't hurt as much as it used to. Being stupid and being anti-science should hurt.
Yeah.
And you're seeing some people right now reaping the benefits of that, right? We talked about Herman Cain earlier. Stupid hurt him a lot. right? Stupid hurt people. It can kill you. And right now, it definitely can hurt you. The problem is that stupid is collateral damage on other people now, right? So we're in a position now where if you do something stupid, you could damage your family, people around you. The more pig-headed you are about whether or not you're going to wear this mask, the more people around you that get stuck in this collateral damage because of your stubbornness. So, it's not just that stupid hurts you, stupid hurts other people too. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. We'll see. We're going to have a guest within a week or two. We're not sure exactly when. We're hoping soon. We're looking forward to that. And we're going to hopefully have a vulgarity for charity soon because we got to really get on these. But we'll keep you posted. We are going to leave you like we always do, though, with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death and towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.